Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special edition of Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we're broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition, we are looking at sequence of events happening within the collaborating political parties, the CPP, and based on that, we are asking the question, is the CPP imploding? And the sequence of activities we saw that in the meetings of the political leaders of the CPP, there was a walkout in protest by Mr. Alexander Cummings of the ANC. We also saw a meeting of the executive of the CPP. Their meeting was besieged by youth calling themselves the youth bloc of the Liberty Party LP, where the police or the national police were calling. We also saw youth from the Unity Party calling on their chairman to step aside because, according to them, he's being bought by someone who they may be thinking has the Father Christmas, Mr. Alexander Cummings. To look at all these sequence of events and ask the question and answer the question, is the CPP imploding? I have the founder or the co-founder of the movement to make Liberia better, Mr. Alex Chuchu Jones. Mr. Jones, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure being here, and thanks to my colleagues. Good to see you, Mr. Jackson and Mr. Tule. Yeah.
Also joining us to discuss the CPP is the CPP imploding. We have a member of the Liberty Party who is here as a co-host on Focus on Liberia. He's joining us from Canada, Mr. George Canen Tule, a man of God, a broadcaster, and also a technology geek. Mr. Tule, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. Thanks to my esteemed what you say, interviewees or whatever. I just want to say thanks, man. Uncle Sam, you and I had never been on a show together, but we always talk. You call me in the middle of the night, disturb my sleep. It's okay. Call you my papi. I love you. You know that. Well, I might disagree with you today, so just be ready.
Last but not the least is economist, an author, and also a supporter, very last-minute supporter of President Weah. He is, and it is not an overstatement to say he is controversial, Mr. Samuel P. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Thank you, Alex, and thank you, George. I look for a spirited conversation. I can assure you that there was not a whole lot we're going to be disagreeing on because the facts are clear in terms of where the CPP stands. So if you just basically discuss the facts and stick to the figures, then you will see the conclusions are very clear where the CPP stands today.
Thank you, gentlemen. We want to welcome our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, where we go in depth, we go underneath the surface of the issues that are happening in our political stratosphere. Again, is the CPP imploding? Let's start by asking the question, the CPP, really, Mr. Tule, his party, I mean, he's away now, but he's still a member of the Liberty Party. So let me start with you, Mr. Tule. Tell me, introduce the CPP. What is the CPP and what's their goal?
The CPP, political opposition in Liberia realized from experience 2011, 2017, even 2005, if you look at it, because in 2005, Ellen, she had a distinction. She had distinction support of the international community, especially the UN that was on the ground. And they didn't hide it. They even said it to political parties. I remember having a meeting at that hotel. I forgot the name of the hotel on Kerry Street, and they didn't hide it. The emissaries from the UN and the US government said it to us plainly that Ellen was their favorite candidate for the election. Anyway, so parties realized that going it alone, splitting the votes amongst themselves, always gave the incumbents the maximum advantage because they have one block and the opposition has one block, and if you break up the opposition's block, it gives the incumbent the chance of even getting the 50+1 on the first ballot. So the CPP came out of that thought that, hey, we have to come together, amalgamize our forces, unite ourselves, and find a consensus candidate that can represent all of us. Because at the fore of that thought was Liberia, where we all, get on the ballot, split up the opposition bloc votes, and then in that process ensure the continuation of a government that is not doing what that is not living up to the expectation of the people, or will we come together, find who is the most agreeable candidate, let him represent us. So the framework of the CPP came into being, and the framework provided for primaries, and the framework provided
Right.
for a convention. And so CPP, basically, if you ask me the question, CPP is an amalgamation of individual different opposition parties with one goal of finding the solution of presenting one candidate, so that the government in power can have to deal with one candidate instead of dealing with many candidates that will split up the opposition block of votes.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Jackson. You have a little bit of a history here. You've been around for a while, especially since 1979. You've been on the political scene. The concept of a collaboration, or call it alliance or coalition, what goes through history, has there been any success with this kind of collaboration, alliance, or coalition in the Liberian political system? Let's get that clear before we move ahead.
Yeah, but before we even do that, look at the faulty premise upon which the CPP was formed. Mr. Tule never said the CPP was formed to improve the lives of the people, or to develop an economic development strategy that would be different from what the governing party is engaging. It didn't, it never stated its, in terms of its clearly defined political objectives. It never defined social objectives, social welfare policy. It never did none of those. It said this is an agglomeration of disparate political parties coming together for one purpose, that is to accede to power. And they never gave accession of power to do what? But let me just go to history. I'm talking about recent history. If you look at the disparate forces, for example, like in the 1985 election, the 1985 election was all contrived. It was a contrivance to ensure that Doe acceded to power, to democratic power. And you know that the Liberian People's Party and the Progressive People's Party, two left of center political parties who had, I mean, by any stretch of anybody's imagination or any public opinion poll, Bacchus Matthews and Abel Sawyer and Tipute had no equals in the Liberian political scene. But Doe clearly obstructed, prohibited those two parties from participating in those elections. So what happened? The neocons from the Chewy Party, the Edward Castley formed the Unity Party, and then of Jackson Doe and Ellen Johnson formed the Liberian Action Party. So what happened? The progressive forces made a conscious decision that they did not want to see Doe accede to power. So they supported the LAP configuration in that election, and which they won. But the story was that Doe cheated, and Doe cheated, and that brought in 1985 with the Kuongpa failed invasion, and of course the 1989 civil crisis and the 14-year war. So what has happened since in the post-war democratic dispensation? You saw that CDC in the 2005 election came up with, I think they came up with like 29% of the votes, right? Or something close to that. And Ellen came up about 16%. But then there was an amalgamation of forces against Weah because of many, many reasons, including the fact that he was clearly ill-prepared to ascend to the presidency. And number two, the international system was not going to put a lot of money into an administration with a George Weah. So people made a conscious decision to put this in that international civil servant, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, into the presidency. but you saw the 12 years of the presidency, $10 billion in OECD funding, and all of that just basically went into the breeze. And Liberia is where it is now, one of the poorest countries in the world, despite the post-war efforts that were made, the cooperation of the international system, and the support of ordinary Liberians, and the $10 billion. And this is where we are now. We have George Weah ascended to power. And then, of course, again, you see people angling for naked power. You don't see a philosophical bent. You don't see a philosophical thrust. You don't see a social wealth and economic development strategy. It's all about naked power. And that's what I want to get to.
Thank you. Mr. Alice Chuchu Jones, you've watched a series of events from the CPP. I don't know how closely you follow them, but if you did, just walk us through what you see happening in the CPP, beginning with, first it started with the wrangling within the Liberty Party with Senators Dillon and Kanga at one end, and then the chairman at the other. There came when Musa Bility and other executives of the CPP were besieged. Then there were calls for Musa to be arrested by the youth and turned over to the police. And all these things, there was Mr. Cummings who walked out of the meeting. A press conference was called. And since then, there has been press conference and counter press conference to give the narrative of what has transpired. Based on that, or tell me, Alex, based on those activities, what first of all, what do you make of those sequence of activities within the CPP? You're muted.
Okay, thank you very much, Dennis. And I think my own impression is it was a foregone conclusion that we're going to have these problems. Let me put things in a little bit of context. I'm speaking here today as co-founder of the movement to make Liberia better. And I think one of the panelists, Mr. Jackson, alluded to the fact that there are no philosophical, political ideas on the table. There's no policies in terms of healthcare, the economy, and all those different things. The movement to make Liberia better, I think today is one of the only organizations where these things are discussed. It was on this network a year ago that we presented this think tank and pressure group to hold these guys to some accountability, that leadership in Liberia should not just be about an individual. It should be about philosophical differences as to how you can move people's incomes up, how you can improve their lives. It shouldn't be about tribes. It shouldn't be about allegiances. And that's exactly what you have today. If you talk to anyone in any one of the political parties, including the government, they all believe that their guy is right. And we do not believe that Liberia will go any further. As Mr. Jackson said, Liberia is the poorest country on the planet if you use most metrics. And whether Cummings wins, whether Barker wins, whether George Weah wins, there's going to be a continuation of that. Some of the things we laid down: one, there should be total decentralization in Liberia, social, economic, political. What do I mean by that? In the absence of having counties formulate their own agenda, develop their own resources, manage some of the resources in the counties, you will always have these political wranglings because it's winners take all. So the presidency in Liberia is the biggest problem because the presidency has too much power. So what I make of it is this is the beginning. This is the beginning to the end. And no matter how you look at it, no matter who wins, no matter who collaborates, you're going to have this problem because the economic trajectory in Liberia is getting worse. You have a country now that has almost $1.5 billion in debt, a country that can barely fund its own budget, one of the smallest budgets in Africa, in West Africa. You have one of the smallest economy, our economy, what, $3 billion? That's like a fraction of what Somalia's economy is at $8 billion. So how do you move a country forward? And some of the strategies we should be discussing is who's capable of decentralizing the country, taking away the central bank from the presidency and making it completely independent so that you don't have this hijack of the state resources as you find right now with the successive government, including the current government. Things like the election commission and so forth. And as we progress, we'll be talking more about that. But my impression is it's going to get worse.
Wow. Now, let's address the major question that I asked for this. And after you give me your answer on this question, we can go into the sequence of activities and try to analyze or tell me how, they fit into the discussion tonight. Is the CPP, based on what we've explained earlier, is the CPP imploding? Or Mr. Tule, is the CPP imploding, or these are just the birth pains of a vibrant opposition?
Of course. I have no fear for the CPP. All right, there are 4 constituent parties in the CPP. And in the CPP, my party has the second largest constituency. Unity Party has the largest constituency. ANC and LAP, they're there together in the bottom. Maybe ALP rather is at the bottom, and ANC is above them. The reality here is this: in a nation such as ours, in our body polity, when you bring people together, an amalgamation of political forces with differing aspirations, dreams, and ideologies, maybe like Alex is saying, they have not articulated their ideologies in terms of what they want to do with respect to individual things. I know that some of them have done that, but have they crafted policy papers and saying these salient issues, these are the paths we're going to use to be able to tackle these issues and resolve these problems and bring relief to the people. Mr. Jones, what you said, your organization is the only one talking about these issues. No, it's not the only one talking about it. We've been saying these things for a long time. I was one of those, if I may, go off track a little bit, that said that President Weah, before he became president, he had no articulated ideology. He had no plan, no articulated plan. Say, this is what I really want to do for Liberia. All Liberians said, the man has a good heart and we wanted him for presidency. And I told them, I said to Liberian people many times that good heart is not enough. A man has to have a plan. He has to have an ideology. He has to be consumed by a vision for his people. So if we come to the CPP, I am of the opinion that these are just birth pangs. These are normal thieving issues. Even as we grow up and we develop teeth, we develop headache, colds, all kinds of things. And this is important. It is to test, it's the shock test, to test the alliance, to see if it will hold, to see if maturity will prevail. If you ask me, Alice Coming walking out of the meeting, it's not. It didn't sound the death knell of the coalition or the collaboration. No, all I know is that, like I said, is the shock to the system to test to see what prevails. Is your individual political aspiration greater than that of the entire nation? And Uncle Sam, I would disagree with you. The CPP has plans within the framework, outside of the framework. There are individuals who have ideology that believe in certain things that Liberia will be different. Now, when it comes to the microeconomics, if they have the individual plan, if they understand that agriculture is the way, and that not just the seasonal agriculture, but that we should go into irrigation so that we can have agriculture activities across seasons. We need, these are the discussions that we need to bring to the fore. But when it comes to the CPP, it's normal in any political collaboration with individual contesting or competing narratives and competing lifestyles and competing ideologies and competing personalities, especially when you're dealing with alpha males who have people behind them. You will have these issues. But I'm rest assured that these will not be real CPP. These issues will only show up the political alliance.
Mr. Jackson, the same question. Is the CPP imploding, or these are just the birth pains of a vibrant opposition bloc?
Well, it depends. Let's be very clear about this. Birth pains in democracy are not influenced by massive egos and misalignment. Birth pangs, don't come about in simple procedural deliberations. Birth pains come about with a philosophical understanding of where you want to be. That's a birth pain. If you want to form a party that want to do better than the government in power, there has to be a economic and underlying economic philosophy that underpins that desire. You have none. You have zero. What is your social welfare policy? You haven't articulated a social welfare policy. You have a country with hundreds of thousands of Zogos, victims of the civil crisis, and then we having 2 or 3, almost the second generation of Zogos in the country. And you're not articulating a plan to remove the Zogos from the streets, to have for some kind of vocational training education, some sort of a social welfare policy that addresses that. You don't have that. Number 2, the history of the country. The political economy is based upon a faulty premise. It's based upon a faulty premise that strangers from across the ocean, black men who were formerly slaves, who come to a country, Christianize that country, and parcel out a piece of land and could grow to prosperity without doing the fundamental building blocks, which is number 1, creating institutions. What institutions do you have in Liberia that completely there to undergird the building of the country? Look at, you don't have an industrial policy. You don't have any kind of a policy, and the current economic policy that you've adopted, the neoliberal approach to economic development,
Mr. Jackson,
it's totally out of sync with the reality.
If I may interrupt you for a minute, what does that have to do with the CPP? Because what you are articulating should be the prerogative of the government in power.
No, it's not a government in power. If you want to transplant the government in power, you must articulate and contrast economic and social development policies that they are not currently undertaking. And you must do it by showing demonstrably empirical evidence that you have that your policies, when implemented, would create so many jobs, will increase the human development index by so much. There will be benchmarks and targets, but you have none of those. You don't even have a website. Let me finish. You don't even have a website that articulates what Dennis and I today to get the framework document. Someone had to send it to us. It's not on the CPP website.
Yeah, so, Mr. Jackson, what I want to redirect you, maybe perhaps, is what you're saying now is both the current government and the opposition, they don't have those things in place.
Yes.
No, so let's throw that out.
No, that's not true. The government has a PAPD. What are you?
So let's leave that and talk about the CPP.
But don't say the government doesn't have it. The government does have.
No, I wanted to hear it from you.
The government has a PAPD, and I'm not too happy with the PAPD. But at least they have something.
Okay.
Contrast that to the CPP. They have nothing.
Right. So my question to you is,
because you compare a document that may be flawed, and a document that does not exist. So I'm prepared to go and deal with the flawed document and to take some corrective measures with the flawed document than to go against people with a non-existent economic and social development plan.
All right, and we'll come to that. But my question to you is, based on the sequence of activities within the CPP, those events, is the CPP imploding?
DOA, dead on arrival. That's what the CPP is, dead on arrival. Because I said, the reason for the formation of the CPP is the ascent to naked power. It has no philosophical underpinnings. It has no principles. It has no code of ethics. It has no moral imperatives. It's just an organization of misfits and misguided individuals that come together to take power. And these people had the opportunities before. Joseph Walker had the opportunity before to ascend to power. Mr. Ure had the opportunity to ascend to power. Yomli Kanga Lauren has been in power for a long time. Alex Cummings is a political neophyte just coming to the political scene, and he's been eaten alive by this gargantuan, political, I don't know what word to use on them, but it's been eating alive.
Thank you.
Well, I would like to disagree.
Yeah, let me go to you, Alex. The same question. Is the CPP imploding?
Well, in the context of what their intentions were, no. I think they were aware of some of the hiccups that we currently see, and nothing's wrong with that. You're not comparing the CPP with any, with the United Nations or, with the EU or a party in Europe or America. In the context of the CPP and the government, in a day, I would take the CPP. In fact, it's my official position that whether Alex Cummings stays in the CPP or not, you were able to get at least 3 political parties, right, to unite under one voice. Step one. Just as Mr. Jackson is saying, he knows the government, what you call pro-poor policy, it's bad, and it doesn't.
I say it's flawed. It's flawed.
Flawed. Okay, yeah. I would use your word. It's flawed, but at least they have one. When I would say it's useless, because having one that doesn't work or that makes people poor is just as good as not having it at all.
That's not true.
Well, hold on, Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Jackson. In the last 3 years, the GDP has fallen. In the last 3 years, everyone will argue unemployment has not, it has risen. In the last 3 years, almost every metrics, economic and social metrics, all right, has declined. And they used the pro-poor document. That was what you guys came up with. So it's not flawed. To me, it's garbage. It does not work. You know it. I know it. It does not work. It has not improved the economy. It has not improved living standard. It has not improved the human development index of Liberia. It has not improved even the sentiment in the country. Throw it away. It's dead. Maybe they should get you to create something that makes sense. All right. So go back to the CPP. All right. You can't fix all the problem at once. You had a situation where you had no leadership. You have no coordination between the political parties. You have a situation now where at least you have a structure. Is that structure perfect? No. Is it better? It's a better alternative than the We Are government? Absolutely. Because the We Are government has been a massive failure in security, economic, social, and any government in Liberia would be better by far than the We Are government. It's the worst government, the maladministration, chaos, all right, massive corruption, murder, everything you can think about that is wrong with that's going on is in the We Are government. So right. I think the CPP, in whatever form or combination, some point will replace this government, and we are prepared to assist them in that process.
Thank you. Alex, here is the problem that we've been going through, because from what you were saying is, compared to the We Are government, the CDC.
Correct.
Putting the We Are government aside, let's take a closer look at the CDC, because we are always in a hurry to replace the government that is in power. But let's critically, I don't want to say forget We Are government, but let's critically look at the CPP, and let's begin with the framework document that brought them together in the first place. And that's what Mr. Jackson keep mentioning, right? Mm-hmm. We have this document called the Collaborative Framework Document of the 4 political parties. This is the final one, April 25, 2020. I hope I have the final document here, because at some point it was pulled back for ratification, and there has been no, again, a reintroduction in the, sometime when you talk about it, they say, well, Carl will send it to you. So I hope this one is correct. So Mr. Jones, my question here is, if you put the We Are government aside for a moment, the CPP was brought together. Primary objective number 1 was to form a coalition or come together so that together they can defeat the current government. So my thing is, this is what we do all the time. We want to replace the one that is in power. Is that enough? Mr. Jones?
I think yes. All right. So again, like I said, let's put things in proper perspective here. All right. You are not talking about and a coalition that been in place for decades. Then look at ECOWAS. ECOWAS have been in place for I don't know how many decades today, right? What kind of document or what kind of institution ECOWAS has in order to improve anything in Africa? They're not criticizing what happened in Guinea, right? But if I fail to understand that Guinea, the people in Guinea are embracing the changing government. And what ECOWAS is doing, ECOWAS is embracing one dictator over the will of the people. The constitution in whether America or Guinea or Liberia says the people, all power is inherent in the people. So they're circumventing the people's power. So I bring in that analogy because it's very important. You're looking at a well-organized, you look at the AU, the same thing. Okay, you look at the African Development Bank, you even look at the United Nations with the development goals that have been around for over almost 20 years now. Have any one of these organizations been able to execute, improve human living standards? No. So why would you put such a, why would you expect that a political party that came together, four political parties, in just in the last 2 years' time, still trying to crawl? Why would you expect perfection? Absolutely,
No.
I wouldn't. So I wouldn't for where they are in terms of the first thing that we're concerned with is that you don't want imperial power in Liberia anymore. Whenever Liberia does not have corporations, Liberian corporation, why? Because one person wants to control everything, and usually there's no development, there's no wealth creation. One person in the government, the leader of a party or the leader of the country, wants to control every deal, wants to appoint everybody. What you have in the CPP for the first time in Liberia, which is a development, that one man or woman no longer can make decisions for every party, whether politically, socially, economically. So that is growing pains, and that's a good thing. And we hope that that will translate into a point in Liberia where we won't even have a single presidency, because the single presidency has been the source of all the problems, social, economic, and political. Switzerland
Thank you.
a president, okay, and they're doing quite fine. We put all power in one. So what the CPP is a model to say that we can have a coordinated leadership. We can have a leadership where
Thank you.
people should disagree, people should walk out of meetings if need be, but power will not be concentrated in one person's hand. It's a good development, and we embrace it.
Thank you. Mr. Tule, the CPP, here are the objectives: to present a single presidential ticket, I'm reading from the framework document, to present a single presidential ticket and all legislative candidates for all elections leading up to and including 2023 general and presidential elections, to forge and support common national interests and present a common political agenda to the Liberian people, to work toward an eventual merger of the constituent political party, to strengthen our democracy through grassroots engagement with our people, using town hall meetings, community engagements, radio and technology, etc. Looking at those objectives and see where the CPP is now, the inter-wrangling, they walk out, the press conferences and counter press conferences, they fight and everything. Is the CPP living up to this objective?
Yes, if you ask me, like I said, the CPP, I want to state this categorically, that the CPP is not a political party. It's a collaboration of political parties. So to attribute the responsibility of a political party to the CPP is just wrong. Like my papa is doing now, Uncle Sam. He's trying to act as if to say the CPP is a political party that is a registered political entity on its own. No, no. The CPP is a collaboration. The CPP has a specific position constitutionally. It is not a political party. Anybody can walk away and say, I disagree, I don't want to be a part anymore, and then they will have to recarve it. It won't be four parties again, it will be three. If two walk away, it will be a collaboration of two, and it cannot be. So that whole framework will have to be redone. So when we look at everything, look, the reality here is, like Alex said, it's all birthing issues. Okay, when you look at Liberia, and I want to piggyback on what Alex said, and look at what Uncle Sam said. uh, to attribute or to even desire that the CDC, the CPP, take a position on these issues and basically do, or okay, wait. In other words, let's look at it from this perspective. Government is there. The government should not do this thing because the opposition should develop a plan to do it. Even though we are the ones in power right now with the budget, we are not doing it, but we want to see the only legitimacy the opposition will grant the opposition is when they come out with a policy formulation to do these things that we should be doing, even though we're not doing them. Until they can do that, we don't grant them any legitimacy. We delegitimize them, and we say that they are not worthy of even existing or the place that they have in the political dialogue. It's not right.
Mr. Ture,
Yeah.
we have the CPP. Now, it seems from the walkout of Mr. Cummings that even there is not a common understanding of the framework document. We are talking about people now having standard bearer prior to the party conventions. We're talking whether we should do black voting or, one man, one vote. These are the things we're talking about. These are the things that are causing the controversy. At this time, does that even show a basic understanding of their own governing principles?
Okay, yeah, it shows it, but then again, the urgency, the importance of the times. It's like this. Give you a common example. Alex Cummings has been going around the country. Why? He look why he came in the last election, and he is to use Uncle Sam's word, he's a political neophyte. He has to do something to establish parity in terms of visibility. He has not been visible, so he's been doing the work. And if Alex Cummings start going around the country doing the work, what happens? Somebody would tell another political leader, "Hey, man, you're sitting down here. There are machinations going on in the background, and the guy is about to trump you." Even though we're all part of the same organization, we all have the same framework, but we all have our individuality. So we can all go ahead and establish and do our independent work. So that tomorrow when we come to that convention, I will have a strong position. Since I want to be the standard bearer, he will have a strong position. I think all is well. Look, it's just a misunderstanding, and I think it was a wrong calculation on the part of Alex Cummings to walk away. And then to issue a press statement to double down on the wrong that he did. Okay, no matter what it is, there are times you go to a meeting, you don't really agree with how things are, the formulation, the agenda, everything. You sit through it, you establish your reservations, and you sit through it as a mature person. So,
Mr. Ture, walking out is a common political protest. It's a protest action that is very common in this in any political organization. I thought both Alex Cummings and the three political leaders made a big deal out of nothing. That's supposed to be a regular thing, right?
I fully agree with
where
you.
is the maturity?
Yeah. You see, but like we said, now look, Alex Cummings has not been in politics. He's been in the corporate world. He's learning. These are the things we call the teething process. When a child starts to even run, he falls a lot of times, makes mistakes. Like you say, I don't want to give this thing flesh. Okay, for me, it's a non-issue. It's a non-issue. Like you said, he walked away. I wouldn't even be discussing it except you wanted us to discuss it. Because personally, I don't see anything wrong with it. I see a gentleman having a conversation, and I said, if I'm I'm going home, man. Maybe because if I stay here, I'm gonna say things that I'm gonna end up regretting. So it's better I leave and come back another time when I have my faculty together and we can continue the discussion. It is well and good.
Mr. Jackson.
Look, first of all, let me just correct a couple of things that my young friend Alex Tutu Jones said. Number one, he says that ECOWAS is totally useless. That's not true. The Economic Community of West African States was formed for one reason, economic integration. And it's done reasonably well. Economic integration, the free movement of goods and people. You can go to any of the West African countries with a passport and then it's trying to put together a common customs union. Is fail in the political interference that it is forced to do. It is not a military organization. It tried to do it with ECOMOG and it failed, and it tried to do it with things like in Mali and other countries, it failed. But ECOWAS, the Economic Community of West African States, okay, has done reasonably well in terms of economic integration and with the free movement of goods and people and put together harmonization of tariffs, all of that. The second thing he said was the uselessness of the United Nations in improving human development. That's not true. In the year 2000, I'll give you the facts, okay? In the year 2000, 189 countries came together and signed the Millennium Declaration. The Millennium Declaration said in 15 years, the goal was to reduce poverty by half, right? Did they reduce poverty by half? Of course not. But they were able to mobilize substantial amount of global resources to make a dent in poverty in many countries. Okay, like Brazil, like South America, like some African countries, okay? And they've done reasonably well. I was part of the team between 2012 and 2014 that developed the replacement of the Millennium Development Goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, because we saw that the Millennium Development Goals had a lot of kinks in it, and we try to improve it with the Sustainable Development Goals using the 3 strands of development: the economic, social, and the environment. So the call to say the UN has been hopeless in not addressing global poverty is not true. And to say that the Economic Community of West African States is a useless organization is also untrue and unfair. So let's get back to Mr.
Exactly.
Can I respond to Mr.
No, wait a second. No, you have the time to talk.
I don't want us to go
let me respond to what Mr. Tule said. Mr. Tule, if in the preamble of the framework document, nothing is about the improvement in the livelihood of the Liberians as a common goal, that's a useless document. No offense. And then when you talk about in the document a VPS, a voter preference survey, and I'm a member of the American Association for Public Opinion Research, and you talk about, and you don't talk about sampling, you don't talk about sampling size, you don't talk about margin of error, and you use words like reputable polling organization with local. I mean, that's complete nonsense, you know. I mean, and I hate to be this jarring, but when you write such trash and try to pass it off as erudition, then it really cuts across to people like me who have done a lot of work in real organizations over the last 46 years in Liberia.
Right, but Mr. Jackson, you're being too academic now. What does that?
I think we need to be academic.
Hold on. I said the sampling size, whether it's bell curve, whether it's scatter plot. What does it have to do now with the function? Hold on.
Because you don't want to use you don't want to use subjective criteria.
Right, but how does it misunderstood?
No, you have to, if you're talking about VPS, you have to be very clear how you're going to structure the methodology and approach to that VPS to make it credible.
Yeah, no, my question to you is, how does it now impact?
The reason why it's like that, because the person who wrote that knows nothing about public opinion research. So they just put it in there for erudition, and that's false erudition. They should have come to people who understand about public opinion research, so to put the language in there to make it a credible paragraph in their framework paper. But like everything else, they don't go to experts. They take a bunch of lawyers.
I get it.
Lawyers, and they write this framework document that doesn't even clearly state how voting is to occur during the primary. It's not even clear.
Is that the reason why we're having the issues? They're having the issues they're having.
There's no clarity in terms of how the voting should occur. Whether it should be block voting or whether it should be one man, one vote is not even clear in that document. So it's open to all kinds of interpretation. And that's the problem they're having.
Thank you. Mr. Alice Chuchu Jones, and you will come in on that. But here are the sequence of activities that's supposed to take place, right? When it comes to voting, because these are some of the issues they now disagree on. Number one, the presidential aspirants of the four initial parties shall have until December 1, 2021, to, by consensus, decide or agree and name a presidential ticket, including a running mate. That's number one, consensus. Number two, if that doesn't work, it goes to the second one, which is the voters' perception survey. That by December 1, 2021, if that doesn't work, they go to the VPS. And now, if that two fail before they go to primary voting. This is September. We're talking November here. In your view, where are we with this? And now they are fighting. They can't even hold a meeting.
Right. Well, I mean, like I said, this is the beginning to more
Come
problems.
on now, this is the normal Lone Star
Okay.
did well. I mean,
we all know, even in the United States, when there's a budget debate, sometimes it goes into the last minute. We see now every time here, and this is a country which is a model, you know, for democracy and what have you. And you're talking about CPP, you know. I mean, this is just a what I would call a mild cow group that just came together out of necessity to make sure that George Weah is out of power. All right. And they're doing the best they can. I'm one of the biggest critics of the CPP and most of the people in the CPP. So I think there's some validity when I say it's a step in the right direction, because for the first time in Liberia, you do not have a political godfather. For the first time in Liberia, people can sign contracts or formulate agreements.
What do you mean?
Disagreements.
Each of the political leaders in the CPP is a political godfather, and we know that.
Yes, but now you're moving where that political godfather now is kind of he has to what you call
all of their positions are tentative. Everybody.
Yeah, but here's what's important.
Yeah.
You're coming from a situation where if you didn't have the CPP, you have one person who controls a political party that makes all the decisions, right? You have come to a situation now where that person has to coexist with three other people, and they have to sign a contract. When in Liberia history did you see people talking about contract, technicality, legality? This is a big development. Whether you're in business or not, whether you're having a merger and acquisition, show me one merger or acquisition that has gone without any problems in the world today. No. Even after the merger, Sam Jackson would tell you there are still things that will be hammered out.
That's not true, Alex.
Show me one merger.
JP Morgan Chase.
I worked at JP Morgan Chase, and I worked
at Chase. So how can you say that?
What I'm trying to tell you,
it's going without any significant hiccup.
Let me finish.
But you started giving an example.
There is no merger.
Give an example.
There is no merger. I was at JP Morgan
Chase. I work for Chase.
Okay.
I work for Chase.
To me, I don't think it's a big deal. Over 200,000 people.
I mean, you have one of the largest investment banks made out of that merger, and you tell me it didn't work. So you give him another example.
He's not saying. Excuse me. He's not saying it didn't work. What he said,
but let me give you the hiccup.
The formulation, the amalgamation of
which particular hiccup he sees in a JP Morgan Chase.
When JP Morgan acquired, let me tell you something. When JP Morgan acquired Bank One, there was a lot. Hold on, there was a lot of issue over Jimmy Diamond when he would become CEO. Jimmy Diamond was supposed to become CEO at the merger. They had to go back and rearrange it.
Where he management
Alex,
that's no hiccup in the merger.
I think Mr. Jackson.
Hold on, Alex. I want us to come back. I don't want us to go to the JP Morgan.
Don't go off tangent, man.
Because the issues that we are talking about here,
we can't talk together. I listen carefully to Mr. Jackson.
Hold on,
finish.
Hold on, Alex. Because the issues here are very basic, and we are saying, okay, at least we have something. I mean, I don't know. That's mediocrity. We have a situation where Mr. Comey is working out because he's walking out of a meeting and making a big show of it.
And Mr. Diamond ever walk out of a meeting?
Oh yes,
disagreement.
Oh yes.
we have a situation where JNB has
Mr. Diamond has actually called a colleague. If
we have
Alex,
a situation,
Alex, that's an aside.
Stop it, man, Alex.
We have a situation where JNB has been coronated prior to its own primary. These are all violations that Mr. Cummings is seeing. And these are just basic things that people at their level, these are not a problem they should be having, Tule. I want to bring in our comment, but let's look at this issue, even starting with each of these.
Well, I didn't have a chance to respond to finish up. Jackson interrupted me, and I think it's fair that
each of these youth group is calling on their chairman, hey, Cummings is trying to buy our party, so get out. These issues are just basic.
It may be Dennis. It may seem basic. It may seem basic, but when you look in the context of Liberia, where it's never been done before, where leaders,
these things have always been done.
It's always been done.
Okay, show me what time in Liberian history two party that where the leaders just went on the
1985 elections that there was a coalition.
We had a grand coalition.
In 1955, there was the Reformation and the Independent Chewy Party. I'm just giving you history.
I'm putting my hand up to disagree with you, Uncle Sam.
If you're gonna interrupt me on every phrase, then I can't express myself.
Alex, you always ask a question and then you want to respond. So go ahead with your point.
Okay.
Can I just come in 1 minute for Alex?
Yeah, I will give you to go ahead.
Every time there have been coalition, there have been a coalescing behind one individual. Like Alex called a political godfather.
Right.
Every time there, when they even with the CPP, the coalition they have with MPP and CDC coming together, it was to show.
Not true. Not true. In 1997,
hold on, Uncle Sam.
You're coming. Every time it has always been behind one candidate.
In 1997,
hold on, Sam.
Every time they had a consensus candidate already that they all agreed to support, and they came together to form a coalition to support that candidate.
Not true. 1997 was the Great
Coalition. Josh, let him call you to a point because that is not true.
That's not true.
Where it happened that it went?
In 1997, the Grand Coalition broke up in the midst of procedural things. When Marcus Matthews then basically walked out when
it's the same thing.
But let me finish. But he says never happened before. In 1955, the Independent Chewy Party and the Reformation Party came together. Okay, and then you had coalitions that have always come up. I can give you Rebel Forces, MPFL, and IMPFL, Ulimo K, Ulimo J. It's always broken up along those lines. That's
right. And to add to that, Josh, in 1985, the Grand Coalition, Lab, Loop, and UP came together and formed the Grand Co.
Exactly.
Who was the candidate for the Grand Coalition? Was there a contestation for the
Of course, there was a contestation, and then
who?
No, but they didn't get to that point. They didn't get to that point. They didn't get to that point of feeling a candidate.
Well, then that's
exactly the point I'm making.
No, then in 1997 we had the alliance when Clayton Watterson emerged.
But exactly 1997.
Okay, let me give you. Let me.
I think we're derailing here. I think.
If you look at what happened in 1997 with Clayton Watterson, it was not to really. He knew he had no chance, zero chance of gaining the presidency. He knew.
Oh, stop it! But they had a coalition.
But then moving the goalpost. Okay, hold on. Okay, thank you. Let Alex end his point. Let's end his point because the idea
I'm not a historian. I'm not a Liberian. Let me just say this. I'm not a Liberian historian, and I don't know everything about Liberia.
But like your own not lasting right now either.
But I will say this much.
It will get to the
it will last.
Okay. Unlike Mr. Jackson, I'm not a historian. And I don't know every details in Liberia.
I wrote a political history book.
Yes. I've read extensively on Liberian history, but I don't make me a historian.
But I mean, I wrote on it.
Hold on, Jackson.
And I've read your book.
Alex, go to your point. We don't have much time.
Well, but then you got to tell this gentleman to stop interrupting me.
Go to your point then.
Okay. My point here is that to have a situation where people willfully, not just out of necessity, purposefully coming together, signing a legal document, alternating leadership within themselves as if a merger
Never happened before.
is never happening. I haven't even seen companies in Liberian companies do that. It's usually a situation where somebody is the head and somebody is the powerful figure. So when you have this kind of situation, like in any negotiation, whether like I said with EU, whether it's JP Morgan, whether it's Lehman Brothers, whatever situation you have where that people are sitting at the table as equals, it's a whole different ball game than one person instructing or dictating what's going to happen. And I'll go to the, I'll hit the nail on the head here.
Yeah, because
In 1 second, let me hit the nail on the head here. What's happening here is this. I can understand Cummins' frustration. All right. Clearly, Alex Cummins is the more qualified candidate. Clearly, he's the most resourceful and most active. All right. The situation here is more of true democracy, where you have 3 other people within the coalition, right, that are voting, for one person, and Alex Cummins is kind of the guy who came into this merger or into this coalition, and he's not getting the true support or the true, every contract is the law and it's the spirit of the contract or the spirit of the law. So in practice, right, these parties have a right. They have a right to strategize. They have a right to disagree. They have a right to follow every line. It's a legal document. It's subject to different interpretations.
Therefore, I still make your point. I still don't get where you're going with this.
My point here is this. This is bound to happen. You will have more of that by the end of the day, right? Whether it's 3 political parties, 2 political parties, the fact about it is that Liberian people are, the opposition will unite and they will defeat George Weah in 2023. And this is part of that process. That's my point.
Thank you. If you want to join the conversation,
we can't help you with that. But
if you want to join the conversation, please call the number on your screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791403. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to read our comments.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
Your microphone. Then it's your microphone.
We're having some issue there, right?
We can hear you.
All right. Let's open the phone lines and see what our callers are saying. We have some callers here. And the first caller, you are live. Go ahead. Your name and where you're calling from.
Yeah, hello. I am Macaulay where I call from.
Go ahead, Mr. Woolen.
So, yeah, let me say thank you to all of you in studio there. But I just want to clarify a few things because I hope that when we try to listen to this program, the facts can be corrected, and we hope the host also can do it just by correcting some of the facts. Mr. Jones spoke about a lot of things. Thank God Mr. Jackson was able to correct some of those faults, and Mr. Jones spoke about the ECOWAS and the emissions, but also equally he spoke about in Liberia. Now everything is trending in a negative direction. I am believing that he is quoting international sources like the World Bank, IMF, and other reputable institutions. And those very institutions the trend right now for Liberia is not being claimed by Mr. Jones. For example, Liberia GDP this year is trending in a positive direction, over 3% growth. In fact, in agriculture, Liberia GDP has more than doubled since this government took power. Our GDP now is almost close to $1 billion in agriculture alone, from under $300 million when this government took power. So I thought it would be a fair thing to make some of this clarity with regards to the ANC and all of the situations they are going through. For me, I'm not worried. It's not strange, especially I know with the likes of Mr. Uri and stuff like that, I knew the ANC, the CPP was going nowhere, because there's no way Mr. Uri's strategy that he's employing advice to Joseph Boakai is going to satisfy the Liberian people. So unfortunately, we might be stuck with just the current government, even for those of us that are not really happy with all of the things that has been done by the current government. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me take one more caller. Alex, I hope you wrote that down. Our next caller, T. Marcus Weir. You're calling us from Kenya. Go ahead, sir.
My name is J. Marcus Weir. Thank you so much for recognizing me tonight. Hello?
Go ahead.
Yes, we're here.
Make your point. We're listening. You're live.
Yes, thank you to the studio guest, and I've been following the show. With the CPP, I'm a member of the opposition bloc, but I believe that whatever that is happening, you see, there is something I've noticed. Benina Ure has already declared his support for Ambassador Boakai. And also the Liberty Party, closely with the chairperson, the political leader, and one of the major stalwarts of the Liberty Party, Darius DeLong, is also for Boakai. See Kumi, who is also a new person in the Liberian politics, who also has a great, potential when it comes to neutrality. He has never played any major role in our governance processes, so he's like a new face. But I cannot be part of a group, and you found out that before going to a process, most of my colleagues have declared support for another person. So how free will I be? Now, looking at the Unity Party, they have something in there. I think they said delegates are going to vote. I don't know, block voting, something like that. So how independent is it? So for me, I differ with that, because even if I'm a delegate from your party, that does not give you the right to control my right. Because that block voting, there is nothing that has to do with independence, because the party is going to the 310 votes or delegates are going strictly for Boakai. So where does Kumi stand? And my own problem with Mr. Kumi was he shouldn't have walked out of the meeting, because he made reference of legislators debating issues, disagreeing, but they don't walk out. Even cabinet ministers sometimes disagree with the president, but they don't walk out. They sit and listen and solve those problems. So if he believes in solving problems, he shouldn't have walked out of the meeting. Because by him walking out of the meeting, he gave those guys the ground by having a broad press conference, Maranyon Blikanga Lawrence saying, oh, Boakai, the Unity Party, they had their primary, their convention, and they decided to carry Boakai. Where? Because primary should be announced according to the documents.
Thank you.
So you see, thank you so much.
Thank you. And since George, I want you to take that last one. It looked like the process is being manipulated, and Kumi is being unfairly treated. That's why the markers are saying, because right, they said it's like they are coronated Boakai already, which I don't know where the primary took place. All these things happening to come, and besides, the Darius DeLong, right now, the Liberty Party is behaving like the fine girl. I mean, sorry for if that will offend other people. That hey, I'm the fine girl here. Everybody come and fight over me.
Yeah, you're right. But you see, I don't want to go back to the old argument, right? The Grand Coalition and all these different things. What is happening? What happened to CPP was everybody they were following the framework, but there is an individual that is unmentioned, that is unnamed in this whole fracas, and that person is Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Yes, she is the key strategist behind the problem that we see in the CPP. She was the strategist behind the Nimba raid, the strategist behind 1985 coup, the strategist behind 1990 war. Even in our small little CPP, she managed send Musa Belete, machinated behind the scenes, got him the chairmanship. And then what happened was when you see these invisible lines being drawn, Dennis, everybody had to take side finally because the force and the animus and the ambivalence that this guy brought into the picture of Musa. And so people had to draw lines. You saw Dylan
I have a question for you.
Hold on, let me just make it one.
Yeah. Hold on. And that because people always the same thing they are saying. Oh, everything is coming behind everybody. Now you are saying Ellie is responsible for everything since 1985.
Oh no, she is responsible. Before the thing about before the lines are even drawn, as soon as Benedict took over in February, what did he do? He started going on road trip with Alex Cummings. Because from what I gathered, Mr. Augustin, from what I gathered, Madam Salif has always been looking for political protection. So anybody who undertakes to protect her politically, she will get involved in giving you favorability against.
Yeah, but George, this is an established party. This is an established party, the party of Charles Walker Bromsky. And you were saying that this party is rudderless in a way that somebody who was sent to the party chairmanship and that person could be against the interests of the party. Is that what you're trying to tell the listeners out there today?
But if your party
let me finish. That your party was manipulated by the political machination of an Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, a octogenarian old lady, you know.
Underestimate her to your own peril.
No, I never estimate Ellen, but Ellen is not as smart as you guys make her to be. Okay, she's not as smart as you make her to be.
Okay,
Ellen, one second.
Can I end my point?
No, but let me just finish. Ellen.
Mr. Jackson, let him finish.
I have confronted Ellen. I have beaten Ellen on many issues. I beat her in 2010 on the National Investment Code when she wanted to take all the restrictions. I beat her on Elenito. I beat her on the most Stevens report. I'm beating her on all of that.
Thank you.
Ellen like men with pants. She doesn't like she doesn't like boys in briefs.
Nobody listen.
George, make your point quickly.
Yeah. I was making my point now. You don't underestimate, don't interchange the two.
No, but you see, she has some power.
Hold on.
You what you are doing, you are substituting devious strategist to somebody who is an academic. She's not an academic, but she's a devious strategist.
But you allow her to railroad you.
Hold on, Jackson.
Let me say this to you, Uncle Sim. What I have told Dennis this thing before. What took Musa Belete from UP into Musa Belete in the previous election in 2011? He was campaign chair for UP, right? 2011, he was campaign chair for UP. What took Musa from being campaign chair for UP to Liberty Party to being campaign chair for Liberty Party in 2017? The cars and the motorbikes that they bought from the money that Aliko Dangote sent to help Charles Bromsky campaign. That money, the cars and the money was the gift that took Musa there. And Musa wasn't a stranger in Liberty Party. Don't get it wrong. He's been in the party from 2017 till today. So, and guess what? You and I both know that influence is for sale in Liberia. Once you have the right amount of money, you can buy people, you can buy their votes, you can buy their voices, you can buy their actions.
Thank
what
you.
Musa Berete did.
So we didn't use any money to buy votes.
Thank you. But George,
they didn't use any money to buy votes.
Hold on.
You still making populism to go ahead, Dennis.
George, what you were talking about Musa Belete, the one you described about moving from Unity Party to Liberty Party, same as Darius DeLong.
No. DeLong was already in the party.
But he supported.
DeLong joined the party before he even contested that senatorial election. That who won? I think it was Geraldine Doe Sharif. Before she won, I think in 2009. DeLong was already in the party, bro. So
no, 2011 election. 2011.
No. There was a special election against Clement.
No, 2011 he supported Ellen.
He supported Ellen.
But guess what about saying that he
left the party?
Right. What I'm saying is what Musa did is not different from what DeLong did. But few corrections our folks are making. I want you to see. Anthony Casali say the Grand Coalition of 85 was formed in earnest after the general election. Get it right, Mr. Casali. I don't know what it doesn't make any difference.
No, it makes a difference.
No, what we're saying is
to support a particular political candidate.
No, whether they were formed before or after there were another elections coming, right? So if the Grand Coalition have held together, there was election coming 1991, so it was still going to be. So they were saying that coming together as political parties had never been done. That's why we give the Grand Co. And right now you said about Ekina Wesley is correcting you, George, that UP campaign manager 2011 was Vapla.
2011 election campaign, they're not true. Anybody who knows that Musa Berete was I don't know, it was Monserrato campaign manager, but he was a campaign manager at Unity Party in 2011.
You mean the general election?
I don't know whether it was general. I know he was a campaign manager. He had an office.
Oh, maybe for senatorial or something.
No. For Unity Party, it was either in Monserrato County, but he had so much influence in 2011.
Thank you.
Before you try to refute what I said, Musa Berete either was Monserrato County campaign chair for Unity Party. If he wasn't the general campaign chair, he was a campaign chair.
Thank you.
He had more influence. He had more influence than the national campaign chair if he wasn't a national campaign chair.
Can I ask a question?
No, I want to go to Alex now because Alex is unusual for him to be quiet.
No, you see, I respect the other panelists.
So Alex, there was something from Macaulay.
And I want to address that. And I think he talked about ECOWAS, and I defend my position that ECOWAS is a useless organization, regional organization. It has done nothing for the people in West Africa.
ECOMOG did something.
Well, what did they do? They sat there and a president was murdered and a war lasted for almost another decade. I mean, you know how many people die as a result? So I don't see, our standard is so low that, we see complete failure and we call it progress. This is an organization.
That's what you're doing for the CPP, right?
Let me finish. This is an organization that's been around since 1975.
75, yeah.
Okay, May 28, 1975. West Africa is the poorest region in the world, the lowest living standard, the highest mortality rate, the highest infant mortality rate. So what has ECOWAS? This is supposed to be an economic organization, right? As Jackson or Mr. Jackson rightly said. So show me what's the economic indicator that says that this organization has come back. Look at Asian organization. Look at South American organizations that have been around even in a shorter period of time. I was just looking at some data here. The East African community, right, that came around 1999. Burundi, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania. Compare the GDP, compare the different metrics, the different social living standards and all of that to people living in West Africa. Look at Nigeria today. It's a mess, complete mess. Where's ECOWAS? So when people like Mr. Jackson come here and start to support failure and mediocrity, it's unfortunate.
You know,
It's a tragedy.
you know what it is,
No,
Alex?
we're distinguished. We as a people set ourselves so low, and I will go back to the administration with a forecast of 3%, 3% GDP that the IMF is forecasting. That's what what you call the real government, Mr. Jackson, celebrating. On a child stealer, the GDP was over 7%. So even if our GDP with even if we are brought the GDP to 5% annual growth, it would be nothing, because you have country like Mali that just went through a lot of internal conflict, military conflict. It's almost $17 billion economy, and we're celebrating 3 billion, and with even 5 billion. As it stands today, the GDP in Liberia is -3%. It has fallen from 2% to -3% for the last 3-4 years. What's there to celebrate? Forget the GDP. Let's go to trade deficit. Okay, let's go to trade balances, interest rates. There is nothing to boast about in Liberia. This government has been a complete useless auto failure. Now, I mean, I can't look at one thing in Liberia.
But let's look at the replacement.
Hold on. Let's see if Alex is finished. We'll come to the replacement.
I will stop there for now, but I will maintain my position at ECOWAS. There's nothing to say.
Mr. Jackson, hold on. Let me bring in some comments, and then we can go to the replacement. Let's bring in some comments here. J. Ganaji, hey, senior brother Ja, watching your show as always, brother. Agatha Sele, Chuchu still here, though thought he left for Liberia to open company to create jobs.
That messed up there.
Oh Lord, history night. Never go to the point. Jackson. That's what Jerome said. I say, Jerome, brother, some of you people are only
to talk foolishness.
Here is that's my phone. DC David said, what is the weird government doing now? Anthony V. Kesselly, the PAPD was carved after the CDC ascended to power. No one should create the impression that this was a policy program proper to the electorate before the election. I'm not suggesting that was not acceptable method to replicate, but it needs to be said right. I don't believe that. I think this was on their website before the election, but I stand to be corrected.
No, it wasn't on the website. It was created after the election. That's true.
That's true. But the payloads, their payloads were before.
Oh yeah, they had their payloads. At least they had a website.
Yeah, they had their payloads before the election. But
just before the election, Toyowa Harris and Azeb Atukpa were the two people, because we told them they didn't have anything on anything sensible for anybody to reference.
But where's the CPP on our website?
CPP is a coalition of it's a
okay, where's the Liberty Party website?
Liberty Party doesn't have a website because we don't have a central.
That's so sad.
But
that is so sad.
Asking what's the CDC? What's the CDC website?
It's the Executive Mansion.
No, it's not. It can be. You can use a political party as a government.
Hold on, gentlemen. Let me read some comments here. It is Christopher. I stand with this president. I support the president. I believe in the sense of judgment of this president. Thank you for giving us hope. Thank you for restoring our honor.
Can you imagine that?
That's our friend Christopher Tobasi right there. Waka Massacre, the same thing you are accusing the CDC for is the same thing the CPP is doing. Michaels J. We are the ECOWAS responsible for the recent uprising in West African countries.
Yeah, right.
I would agree to that.
Okay, listen to me, Dennis. Let me make a few points here.
Disarray. Sam Wallow, what did the both of you do at JP Morgan?
I was second vice president at Chase at the age of 26.
Sam also
I was at 22, and I was a loan counselor.
So Comey has made a huge mistake. He continues to injure himself, and today's press conference didn't help preaching to the choir. I have a question on Comey's here. Cummings, from the beginning, I think the CPP has been eating his lunch. And it looks to me that he has sacrificed other members of the ANC, and now it's time to sacrifice him, and he's pushing back. Let's from Simeon in Cape Mount to Tai Wongbe in Nimba. He had made consensus with
Concessions.
God.
Concession.
Made concessions with these individuals, right? And now it is time for him, and he's walking out.
Well, I think Dennis, is not fair. It's not a fair characterization of Cummings. Let me tell you something, okay? Regardless of how it turns out, Cummings has established himself in Liberian politics.
It's not my point, right?
And he is but let me say, working out. I think we overemphasize that.
No, what I'm saying is, when he was pressed, he gave up so easily with Simeon in Cape Mount, Tai Wongbe, and other individuals, right? And now, so every time he was backing out of it. Every time he was clearly being bullied by CPP, especially ALP, and he accepted it because other people were being sacrificed. Now it's time for Cummings' head to be on the chopping board. Why is he walking away?
Look, Dennis, let me tell you something, okay? Liberian politics is not for the faint of heart. Liberian politics is not for political neophytes and weaklings. The only way you can ascend to power in Liberia, you got to have some degree of bravado, serious bravado. And Mr. Tule talked about Ellen. Ellen, very courageous. Makes people like George Tule then they shake in their trousers when they see her.
What's your language?
No, I mean, okay. Or they shake, okay. Samuel Doe, Charles Taylor, and then so if you want to ascend to power in Liberia, say what you may about me. The reason why I get ahead in Liberia is because I am like what they call it, Mami Pepe. If I disagree with you,
that's what you mean. You get ahead.
I get ahead means I'm politically relevant. I do my business that nobody bothers me, and I ascend to whatever I want to ascend to. If I want a government job right now, I could go and angle for that and get it.
But you never got any government job since Charles Taylor, and you say you get ahead?
Yeah, but I've done extremely well.
Okay.
I have a consultancy. I work as I was on the high level panel. I'm a senior economist. I did a lot of work for UNDP on behalf of the government of Liberia.
Yeah, but Jackson, that's part of the problem
because the government they kick you out and they never pay you. You were crying about your 5,000.
No, but that was in the last 2-3 years.
Okay,
that was in the last 2-3 years. But look what I did when I went to Liberia 2019. I organized the National Economic Dialogue. I raised $300,000 from the UNDP and from the OECD countries.
That dialogue was a fiasco.
Yeah, but I'm saying, okay, but say whatever you may, but I'm talking about my relevance and my ability to always be in the mix.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about whether I succeed in terms of implementing programs, but I'm saying you have me on a program today because I'm relevant. If I was relevant,
Sam, are you saying if you're relevant, then why, with your background, okay, your economic prowess, your ability and experience, why aren't you in Liberia trying to correct all of the decline and the economic?
Yeah, but let's just get something straight. I left Liberia in 2015 because I had cancer. So for the last 6 years, now I'm just getting back to myself now.
All right.
I decided to go back to school to improve my credentials for global consulting to get out of your way. Because I don't want to be in your way anymore. I'm tired. So I have decided to move to another country where I worked for 5 years before. I'm going back to South Africa to set up my global consulting firm in South Africa to do my international hustle. I would just be coming for Liberia for my little vacation, to go on Tropicana Beach, to go on the beach and enjoy myself, and I will go back to my hideout in Central South Africa. That's what I decided to do for the rest of my life. So you can be fighting your CPP, your ANC, all that doing it. I'm gone. I'm
Thank
out of
you.
there.
Dennis,
George, I had a question
before
about
you
Mr.
ask a
Cummings.
question, can I say something?
Yeah, that's why I'm coming to you on Mr.
No, because
Cummings.
when you ask a question, you will confine me to something. So I wanted to say something about the CPP.
Go ahead.
The CPP is not a perfect framework, but one of the things I noticed about the CPP, perfection is not something that they aim for, which is wrong. Because when you try to replace dysfunctionality, you have to show that you are functional. And there are a lot of things about the CPP that needs to be addressed. And I will take from what Sam said. I consider myself a member of the CPP, but I think the political leaders need to understand that, except you have articulated ideologies and vision that you breathe and you speak, and that envelopes you, you are not going to wake up to the reality. You vying for the presidency. 2023 is almost here. If you do not start articulating these ideologies, what Sam talked about, what we have always talked about, issue with agriculture, how you intend to, because the only solution for Liberia going forward is agriculture.
I disagree with you.
Okay, fine. The only solution for Liberia going forward, in my view, is agriculture.
So where did I come from? Where research?
Because I've seen other countries that are agronomists. I've seen other countries that were before agriculture went into oil. They were their economy, their GDP was completely dependent upon agriculture, and I saw how it worked. I saw that
doesn't mean that was the reason agriculture improved.
Right. I mean, I don't want us to go in that leg, but there's
and this is my point, and that's why I invite some of you guys, like Sam and you guys, to start thinking about progress development in Liberia from an academic standpoint. Because for right now,
let me make my point quickly.
Okay. Alex, and let us not go into that agriculture because there's no facts there whatsoever.
Yeah, no facts.
What? No facts with what?
Someone wakes up in the morning and says
agriculture is going to be the magic bullet. We don't have any information on that.
You don't have to have information, but I'm giving you the information now. If you want to, just listen to me. If you want to make Liberia independent financially, there are.
Let me get my friend Tulio help, okay? Let me get.
Let me just lay on this before you.
Let me give you some help.
If you really want to take Liberia to the next level and establish independence and build an economy, agriculture is the way forward.
But you need money to do that.
Yeah, but okay,
we do not have. We don't have the ability to establish any other industry. Our population is small. So what can we do? We have
what about technology?
We have the green. We have the
what about technology?
But guys, let me speak as an economist now, right?
Yeah, no,
okay.
but Sam,
I have to speak as an economist, right?
Yeah, but before you come there, the agriculture
we
don't have money. Go ahead.
Let an LSE economist speak now. You want me to talk? Okay. I think George, you're talking about, agro industry, okay, and I will agree with that, okay, and agro processing, and because that will help in terms of manufacturing, okay, and creating jobs and the value chain.
Yeah.
There is sufficient evidence, okay, that societies that grow from agriculture have sustainable economies over a long period of time. And if you look at history, right,
like Japan,
yeah, if you look at history, all the developed countries, they started from an agricultural base, and then they move into industry, and then they move to information communication technology. The issue with agriculture in Liberia and other other African countries is that we don't treat agriculture as an industry. 60 to 70% of the workforce in most West African countries is involved in agriculture. And the typical person involved in agriculture is a female, but it's all in subsistence farming, right? Mm-hmm. Because we do not, first of all, the Comprehensive African Agriculture Development Program, the Maputo Declaration, says that 10% of the budget must go to agriculture. Most African countries, not even 3% or 4%. No. The other issue you have is agro-financing, okay? Right. With agro-financing, you need...
Just wrap it up, Sam.
Okay.
I don't want us to go down any rabbit hole here.
You need a special purpose vehicle like Agriculture Development Bank that can do long-term funding for agriculture. Because you have all kinds of agriculture funding, like leasing, like
And that's
financing,
why your
inventory,
field
all of that.
regional
So that's the
ECOWAS
whole.
should be doing.
So what you're talking about is agro.
Thank you.
The
Just
way you're
wrap it
talking
up
about
there.
is agro industry, and I agree with George on agro
Yeah.
industry and agro processing. Yes.
And
Thank
let
you.
me add, that's why his field regional ECOWAS should have been doing if there was a serious organization. They will be
Thank you.
financing agriculture. They will be making sure that that there's industries built in agriculture in West Africa. But instead, what they're doing, they're defending, dictators around West Africa.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dennis?
Hold on. Let me bring in a few comments here. Amos George. ECOWAS was responsible for the military takeover in Guinea, Mali, and Chad because they do not have the willpower to hold dictators accountable.
Exactly.
And Anthony V. Kessely is back. He said, Dennis, the formation of 1985 Grand Coalition was not for the purpose of another election that was several years down the road. It was a protest move against what was viewed as irregularities and twisting of figures of the just held elections. They wanted to hold together to do that, but they were also looking at it down the road, Mr. Kessely.
No.
Yeah. I mean, how many political parties will come together and not looking down for the next election and only doing this to protest a past election and then forget it? I disagree.
Those people couldn't agree on anything, Dennis.
That's not true. But let's go to.
Dennis, I was making a point there about agriculture. Please, let me say this to you.
Yeah, I don't want to go to agriculture.
No, the reason why we're talking about CPP, but
yeah,
I said this.
That's why I'm coming. You said the CPP need to articulate what they want to do.
Of
Agriculture
course.
was just an example. So I get
but Dennis, I don't understand these people. You got a marketplace, you got a business and economic forum. They go talk economics, they were talking CPP today, then they go to economics.
Oh no, because no.
So my question here,
the CPP said they want to replace. We want to replace George Weah. The question here is this: the same thing I accuse Weah of not having any articulated ideology. What all those leaders is not just enough to say you want power, but we want to hear. The Liberian people are yearning to understand, and this is what we should hold them to.
Exactly.
You should be able to articulate your plan for us, so that we can have something to hold you to. That in case you come tomorrow and you change and you divert, or you go into another trajectory. Instead of sticking to the plan that you gave us, we can come on the street and say you told us this and you didn't do it, so we're holding you. And the next election we'll hold you. But until we can do that, so let me tell you the truth here. To change Liberia, we have to change from this. Anybody coming, that's why I said I created a post on something. I said anyone who wants to take the presidency should tell us what they will do with every important aspect of our national life, from healthcare, education. We want. What is your plan? Don't come there and can't tell us that after we voted for you, say we voted for you, and you because look at the CPP, look at UP for me, CDC for instance. They didn't even have a government.
Thank you, Mr. Ture.
They start collecting money from people and appointing them to offices.
Right, and that's why even Ellen didn't have a government. Nobody has government. They get to power before they pass. You made a very important point about the CPP, and that's why the formation of the CPP, I believe, was flawed, because objective number one, according to the framework, to present a single presidential candidate. If that's your objective of coming together just because to feed candidates,
to fill a candidate,
I don't think that's solving our problem.
Let me in
In the framework, that's the objective of the framework. Yes.
Let me say this.
All right. Okay. No, leave it. Let me move to a different direction, which is where do we go from here with the CPP, with the things happening in the CPP, and how does this benefit or hurt the chances of we have second term?
All right.
Okay, let me answer. Look, the brouhaha in the CPP is clear to me is assurance for a we are second term. Because let me give you a scenario. Cummings is going to be eaten alive by the hyenas in the CPP. He will spend his money, and he will come to a point where he will not be the CPP candidate. And because he's wasted so much energy and resources into his people will force him to go it alone. Then Tiawan Gonglo, people who are looking for a political place to go to Tiawan Gonglo. And all of that is going to dissipate the whoever's going to come second. So it's possible, Seth, that with Tiawan Gonglo in the race and Alex Cummings and Joe Borka and other people, it will be maybe somebody could even surpass Joe Borka. It could be like a Tiawan Gonglo. Yes. So we have to be very, very careful. So as a strategist for the We Are 2023 campaign, my focus is on a 15 county, 73 district strategy to contrast the confusion within the CPP, within the governance, within the CDC administration. And once people start seeing you solving real problems and putting real projects in over the next 24 months in the 73 districts, pretty soon they will forget about the very cantankerous CPP configuration and they will re-elect President Weah for 2023. And that is where we're going.
Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Well, I think Mr. Jackson will be very disappointed because what he's not taking into consideration, whether you have Tiawan Gonglo into the race and you have Cummings in the race or you have Borka in the race, they can split the votes that for the opposition 3 ways, 10 ways. The facts here is that it's not going to go to Josh Weah. So you're gonna end up with Josh Weah against somebody else. In the second round, I don't see a Tiawan Gonglo or his supporter under any circumstance, and I'm talking from someone who have worked with him, supporting Josh Weah. I don't see a Cummings on any situation supporting Josh Weah. So at the end of the day, yes, Josh Weah would go to the second round. One of these candidates or CPP will go to the second round, and they will join, and that will make up 80% of the voting block, and they will beat Josh Weah fair and square. The numbers showed it in the last 2020 elections. Look at the senatorial elections, right? You had a lot of independent candidates, but Josh Weah did not come out and win those seats that he wanted to. I mean, so
and he campaigned for them.
He campaigned strongly. So something being split between 3 people doesn't mean that it will come to you. So it's all for rude awakening. And I don't care. We can build. Josh Weah can build highway paved with gold. Okay, in Liberia, Liberian people are done with him, and under no circumstances, Barack Obama can go to Liberia and hold Josh Weah hands up, and he would not win the next election. That is a promise.
What are you speaking from?
I'm speaking from both. As somebody from the technical analysis that we've drawn from the movement to make Liberia better, we have decided we will be endorsing the opposition, no matter who it is, because this government has been a complete reverse.
So if your mind is made up against Josh Weah,
but this is not a will. We looked at the situation. We look at what's best for the country, and we over the last 3 years, we've done our analysis. We've looked at the progress of the government, where the government is, and we've seen that any one of these people, are they perfect? No. But they are better than what you have today. And that's the message.
Okay, gentlemen.
Thank you. Mr. Tule.
All right. This is where I stand with this. I'm also saying that the CPP, all they have to do is to just hold on until they get there. But in the meantime, while getting there, they ought to iron out the issues and make sure that they have policy documents, plans for agriculture, different plans for healthcare, plans for education. They need to look into these areas. You know, the political wrangling, when these political leaders get together, they need to also understand that they're not only talking about who will head the ticket at the final analysis, but what does the ticket represent? Does the ticket represent the will and aspiration of the Liberian people? If yes, to what degree? And how are the tickets going? How is the ticket going to improve the material well-being of the Liberian people that the government have not done? And to help Jones, My brother he runs a EU project, conservation project, and he just called me out of the blue and was talking to me. He said, "Look, man, I've gone to all the 15 counties. I've done extensive work, mapping out things, making reports and stuff like that. In my interaction with the people, I've seen that the people are so fed up with this government. And I've heard from several people, all they are waiting for is that God will sustain them, keep them alive, so that they can be able to go to the polls in 2023 to cast their ballot against the government. Some of them even voted for we are. And the reason is because the roles that Uncle Sam is talking about, first thing, most of the roles are substandard, but even the roles of the marketplaces and everything does not translate into tangible realities for the people on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
These people are suffering.
Thank you, Josh.
They cannot afford their daily livelihoods. Things are so difficult. And the more they experience these difficulties, the more it draws them away, it pushes them away from the CDC for even consideration of the CDC. So the CDC is in big trouble. And the reality here, you guys need to face and tell your man that the economy is the biggest problem. 60.
And you think Joseph Boyka from the failed United Party administration will be a replacement for the CDC administration?
That brings to my last question for the night. Looking at the CPP, and right, it's clearly between Alexander Cummings and Joseph Newman Boakai. In your view, who do you think is what is the path for each of them to be? And specifically, what should Cummings do? Because it looks like he's the trouble child now. It looks like the three other parties are for the lack of the better word, ganging up against him. Who is going to win the CPP nomination, and what should Cummings do going forward?
I'll be the first to go.
Sure.
Let me say this. I've always said it. Cummings needs to realize that he is not as popular as Joseph Boakai with the electorate.
And he's not as old as Joseph Boakai too. I don't want to.
No, he has an advantage over Joe Boakai when it comes to age, mobility, and all of that. But the Liberian people are not considering that. I'm telling you today, from the calls that I've had and the people I've spoken with across, and I'm saying this, that Cummings need to play his cards properly. Joseph Boakai cannot run Liberia. Right now, the tenure is still 6 years. There's no way that old man can run Liberia for 2 tenures. Or we will even say, is he going to even complete 1 6-year term? I'm being honest here. I'm a party. You understand what I'm saying now? And I like to speak frankly. Will he be able to have the strength to complete 1 6-year term, visit all over the country and handle all the issues? We don't know. Only God knows. But Cummings, being younger and more vibrant, could play a very important role. He can be an executive vice president for Liberia, not a ceremonial vice president. So that framework can be worked out. It can be an established, look, my man, I will go with you as vice president, but I'll be a vice president of consequence. I'm not going to be relegated to the back burner. But the fact that you don't even have legs, as it were, quote unquote, let me be the legs, let me be the face of the party ticket and everything, because I'm going to be the one who will contest the next election. If that arrangement is held, all this infighting disappears. The CPP is unified early before 2023. Because if he doesn't do it, he stands the risk of alienating himself and removing himself out of the equation altogether. So think about it. There is no way Joseph Boakai can run Liberia for 12 years or even 10 years. That is, we have a referendum and we change things. It's not possible. So the only thing he can do now is say, look, be smart. Let me come on the ticket now, but I will be a vice president of consequence. I'll be an executive vice president. My voice will have weight. I will be the face of the government since you are old. So if he does that, trust me, if I was his advisor, this is what I would say to him. And those who are listening and have his ears, tell him the sooner, the better. So come in, stop all this wrangling, take this vice presidential position yourself to run Liberia, implement the policies, the vision, everything on Boakai. Boakai steps out of the way after 6 years, or God grants him that long. And then you come in and you become the president and run the country and help us.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, do you agree? I mean, he lays a very good case here.
Yeah, it is a very good case, right? But look, if my uncle was a woman, he would be my aunt. The way I see these animals, this bad blood between the Cummings people and the Unity Party, I know for a fact, Tyrus Dillon told me publicly that he's supporting Yomli Kanga to be vice president. Let's be very clear about that. I also know that the Europe people are supporting him to be vice president. And the CPP framework document is very clear that whoever is the nominee chooses his own vice president. Okay.
Right.
I don't see any scenario where Alice Cummings, who is consumed with somewhat bland ambition, who has all this big money, and he look at the presidency of Liberia as a trophy. I mean, in grad school you have a capstone course, right? So this would be like his capstone, where he's got all this money. Now the Liberian presidency is his trophy, and that's the way he look at this. But also his people now looking at him like a demigod. If you look at the comments on Facebook from the ANC supporters, ABC is like a demigod to them. And I don't see them under any circumstance encouraging him to go on a Joe Boyka as vice president. So the typical Liberian, you get vexed, you grab your ball, when they don't choose you on the field, even with us, what happened to us, the guy will grab a ball and run with it. So that's exactly what is going to happen. What will happen is that the CPP will elect Joe Boyka, no matter how flawed the process is, and Alice Cummings is going to go it alone. And then that's going to be where the gingerbread ball breaks down.
Thank you. Mr. Jones, you got two theories on the table here. Will Cummings take his ball home, or will Cummings, it's better for him to go as VP to Mr. Boyka? Tell us.
I think Cummings is a very lucky man because Cummings is the future. Okay, whether Cummings wins now, 6 years from now, the fact of the matter is he's gained experience, he's built a machinery, and he's positioned himself. That's a good thing. I mean, look how long it took George Weah to become president, or Joe Biden or something. So I wouldn't even encourage the vice presidency because, the man can get any position in Liberia and it will serve the Liberian people well. He could be central bank governor. He could be head of the investment commission. He could even be a special envoy on the economy. I mean, they can create a position in the government. He could act more as a prime minister. If you really want to develop the country, he could be the point person. So, I mean, I won't feel sorry for Cummings. He's positioned himself very well. Also, you alluded to the fact of the CPP not having policy. They don't need one. We have all the policy for them. We have very smart people in Liberia, smart people in all areas. What would it take us to put what we have for social policy, economic policy? We can do that.
Alex, before you end, all they need to do is to go to our YouTube channel, take our videos, and you have a government.
That's what I'm saying. So Boyka doesn't need to create any policy.
And please stop saying that. That's criminal, man.
Why does he need to create policy when there are already policies?
The reason is this. You will have what you are saying. I told Isaac Jackson the
same thing. Hold on. Let Alice.
I said to Isaac Jackson, I said George Weah will not use your head to govern.
Let me tell you something.
So immersed
you cannot compare
of his position.
Gentlemen, I have to leave, guys. Bye-bye.
Comparing George Weah
conclude on your point.
Comparing George Weah to a Joseph
I have to leave.
Doesn't do any justice to the whole republic. Joseph Boyka is no
Just make your point. Don't react to.
Okay, so the point I'm trying to make here is that more than likely Joseph Boyka will win the CPP ticket. The question becomes now: does Cummings want to help him, succeed and be a part of the government, or does he want to go on his own and prepare himself for the next election. Either way, it's still good for the opposition.
Thank you.
If he comes in as a, if he comes in to help the CPP, the fact of the matter is that he will be more useful, and Liberian people will be better off with a post George Weah government. Any way you look at it, more people, more brain power will be on the table. You have now already a situation where people from different political parties have worked together to some extent, and that will just be a continuation of that. So, I like the fact that you're not going to have one person dominating Liberian politics anymore. That's a good thing, and I will leave with that.
Thank you. Your prediction: who represent the city? Who represent the CPP? Who wins 2023?
I think Joe Barker.
George?
I think Joe Barker wins in 2023. Joe Barker becomes the head of the CPP come December, and I think that a lot of other parties will join him as we proceed. He just declared, he's just popular. I mean,
Thank you, Josh. Your prediction?
I believe Joe Buckeye, but one of the things, because I love Cummings, I will support him if Buckeye was not in the race. That's the reality. But my thing here is this: I'm afraid, Dennis. I'm afraid that if Cummings is not vice president, Alex, Cummings is not vice president. If Buckeye steps out of the stage, whoever is vice president may have presidential ambitions. It could pose a problem if Buckeye then did a very good job in that 6 years. It could pose a problem, and the ideas and the vision this guy can bring to the table, he will be caught off, because I don't care how well you are as an opposition candidate.
And that's why I don't want you to go for vice president. I think.
Hold on. If the government of the day under Buckeye do a very good job, go about establishing integrity, deal with the issue of corruption, Zogos, all these different things we are talking about, they do it. It will put that the favorability of the vice presidential candidate will be very, very high. So even though you are coming from outside the poll, say we seen these people what they have done, we want to work with them. Why be on the outside looking in when you now can start negotiation? Because let me tell you something. The reality here is to let all this hala go. If Cummings start to have the dialogue with my father, Joseph Buckeye, somebody who I consider as a father, start having that conversation with him right now, Yombly and what he mean, Ure will not factor.
Thank
they
you.
won't factor in this conversation.
Let me put two comments on the board, and then we can end the discussion tonight. Samuel Sunda said Cummings' problem in taking the VP slot is guys that are eyeing 2029 would not allow him to take that slot. More fights ahead. Mr. Lowenthal said, remember, majority of the voting population is young. Would they vote for an older candidate or a younger one, especially if he's competent, corruption-free, and full of energy and a vision for them? William has said, Cummings is the most prepared for positive disruptive change in Liberia. And he said something here that I want to mention. He also said, does Cummings need Liberia? No, but Liberia needs the like of Cummings for the desired positive change. This is an unfortunate statement. I keep hearing from some ANC people. Cummings does not need Liberia, it's Liberia that needs him. Stop saying those kind of things. Isaac, Josh, great analysis. It makes a huge sense in the argument about CPP. Cummings needs to align with DNP to defeat CDC in the forthcoming general election. Gentlemen, and Sam Wallow again, Cummings said today that he would rather lose holding on to what he believes in than enable the existing circumstances. He says his counterparts are the past, he's the future, and the current administration is the present. Somebody is saying, it seems like Mr. Dennis Jai is a fan of Mr. Cummings. Darling said, if Cummings agrees to go as VP, he will be sidelined. Jua Howard Taylor can relate. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the discussion tonight. And that's why I can say with hard shooter, you can't get it anywhere else than right here on Focus on Liberia. I want to thank our viewers also for staying here with us. Please keep it here at Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Until then, from me to you, we say have a pleasant good night, and we end with the song that always says, we are all Liberians. Good night.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home. Liberia people. Either you hate it or we want. Liberia. Either you hate it or we want. Liberia.